It was a gray, chilly afternoon in the middle of October. The sky was covered in thick clouds, and the sound of raindrops hitting the pavement echoed through the quiet streets. Water collected in puddles, reflecting the blurry silhouettes of trees swaying gently in the wind. The smell of wet leaves and damp concrete filled the air. Emma walked alone, her school bag bouncing lightly on her back. She was 12, quiet and thoughtful, with curly brown hair tucked into the hood of her yellow raincoat. Her boots splashed softly as she stepped through shallow puddles, careful not to get her socks wet. The city was calm, almost sleepy, with only a few cars passing and the occasional umbrella bobbing by. Emma didn't mind the rain. In fact, she liked how it made everything feel slower. She liked the way the world seemed to whisper instead of shout. Still, she walked with purpose. Her mom would be waiting at home, and Emma didn't want to be late. The wind picked up slightly, tugging at her coat and making her tighten her grip on the straps of her bag. As she turned the corner onto Maple Street, her favorite shortcut home, she noticed how empty the neighborhood looked. Most people were inside, staying dry. The soft rhythm of her boots and the rain was all she heard, until something made her stop. It was a sound, faint but clear. A tiny, desperate sound. She paused. There it was again. A soft meow. Emma looked around, confused. She took a few steps forward, then stopped again. Another meow. It was coming from the right, near a row of trash bins lined up against the brick wall of an apartment building. She hesitated. The rain was still falling steadily, and her hair was starting to stick to her cheeks. But the sound pulled at her, quiet and pleading. She walked slowly toward the bins, her eyes scanning the shadows beneath them. "Hello?" she said softly, unsure why she was whispering. "Is someone there?" No reply, only the rain. She crouched down, peering behind the second bin. At first, she saw nothing. Then, in the dim light, something moved. A small bundle of fur, soaked and shivering. It was a kitten. It looked no older than a few weeks. Its fur was matted, its tiny body hunched against the cold. Big, round eyes stared up at her, full of fear and sadness. The kitten let out another quiet meow, barely more than a squeak. Emma's heart squeezed. The kitten was all alone, cold, wet, and scared. She didn't move right away. She just looked at him, and he looked back. And in that silent moment, with the rain falling around them, she knew she couldn't leave him there. Emma stayed crouched, watching the kitten for a few seconds longer. He didn't run away. He was too tired, too wet, and too small. His body was trembling, and each tiny meow seemed weaker than the last. The rain continued to fall, forming little streams that ran along the sidewalk and pooled near the bins. She slowly reached out her hand, palm open, careful not to scare him. "It's okay," she whispered. "I won't hurt you." The kitten flinched slightly but didn't move away. Emma stayed still, letting him see her, smell her. She remembered what her mom once told her: when someone is afraid, give them time. She waited. After a moment, the kitten took a small step forward, then another. His paws made soft splashes in the shallow puddles. Emma smiled gently. "There you go," she said. "That's it." She took off her raincoat and laid it on the ground in front of her. The kitten stepped onto the dry fabric, curling up instinctively. Emma slowly wrapped the coat around him, lifting him carefully into her arms. He was lighter than she expected, just skin, bones, and soaked fur. She held him close, feeling the coldness of his body against hers. "You're freezing," she said, adjusting the coat so only his small face peeked out. "We need to get you warm." Emma stood and looked around. The street was still empty. No one was watching. No one was coming to claim the kitten. She didn't hesitate. Holding him close, she turned and started walking home faster than before. Her steps were quick, but careful, trying not to jostle the bundle in her arms. The rain hit her back now, and her hair clung to her neck, but she didn't care. As she walked, she spoke to the kitten in a soft voice. "You're going to be okay. I promise. I don't know where you came from, but you're safe now." The kitten made a tiny noise, not quite a meow, not quite a sigh. It was almost as if he understood her. By the time she reached her front door, the bottom of her jeans were soaked, and her hands were numb. She struggled a little to open the door without dropping him, but finally got it open with her elbow. She stepped inside, dripping on the floor. Her mother called from the kitchen, "Emma. Is that you?" Emma didn't answer right away. She moved straight to the living room, set the kitten gently on a soft towel she grabbed from a basket, and knelt beside him. He looked up at her, blinking slowly. Then he curled into a tight ball and closed his eyes. Emma touched his head gently. "Don't worry. I've got you now." And for the first time all afternoon, she felt warm. Emma stood by the towel, watching the little kitten breathe. His body rose and fell slowly, each breath steady but shallow. The warmth of the house was beginning to reach him, but his fur was still wet, and his paws were muddy. She gently picked up another towel and started to pat him dry, careful not to scare him. "It's okay," she whispered. "Let's get you clean." The kitten opened one eye, then closed it again. He didn't resist. He seemed too tired to move, too relieved to care. Emma worked quietly, drying his ears, his back, and his tail. Bit by bit, his fur began to fluff up. She wrapped him in the towel like a baby and held him for a moment, letting his body rest against her chest. He was still cold, but not shaking anymore. After a few minutes, she set him down gently and walked to the kitchen. "Mom," she said, "I found a kitten outside. He was alone in the rain. Can I keep him for now? Just until we find out if he belongs to someone." Her mother turned from the stove, eyes widening. "In this weather?" she said. "Poor thing. Okay, but let's take care of him properly. Do you want to warm up some milk for him?" Emma nodded quickly. "Yes. Please." Back in the living room, she poured warm milk into a small saucer. The kitten sniffed it at first, unsure, but then leaned forward and began to drink. His tongue moved fast, and his little body leaned into the dish as if he hadn't eaten in days. Emma smiled. "There you go," she said softly. "That's better, right?" He finished quickly, then licked his lips and looked up at her. His eyes were wide and curious now, not frightened. Emma sat cross-legged on the rug and watched him explore the towel slowly. He tried to stand, wobbled a little, then took a few unsure steps. "You're stronger than you look," she said. The kitten meowed, a small, high sound, and came closer, placing one tiny paw on her knee. Emma laughed quietly. "Are you saying thank you?" She reached out and stroked his back gently. He didn't flinch this time. "You're a brave little guy," she whispered. "We need to give you a name." The kitten climbed into her lap and curled up there, as if he'd been there 100 times before. Emma looked down at the tiny ball of fur resting peacefully on her jeans. "Milo," she said. "I think I'll call you Milo." Milo didn't move, but his tail gave the tiniest flick. Emma leaned back slightly, smiling to herself. She didn't know where he came from, or why he had been alone in the rain, but now, here in the quiet warmth of her living room, she knew one thing for sure. He wasn't alone anymore. The rest of the evening passed quietly. Emma stayed in the living room, Milo never far from her side. She brought a small blanket from her bedroom and folded it into a square beside the couch. Milo seemed to approve. He climbed onto it, turned in a slow circle, and lay down, his head resting on his paws. Emma watched him closely, noticing the way his ears twitched at every sound, how his breathing had become softer, calmer. His eyes were half closed now, and for the first time, he looked peaceful. "You really like that spot, huh?" she said with a grin. "It's yours now." She sat cross-legged on the floor next to him and began speaking in a soft, playful tone. "Milo, do you like warm milk?" "Yes, you do. You drank it so fast." She mimicked his slurping sound and giggled. "You were so hungry, little guy." Milo lifted his head at the sound of his name. Emma leaned in and whispered, "Yes, I'm talking to you. You're Milo now. That's your name." The kitten blinked at her and gave a tiny meow. "Is that a yes?" she asked, pretending to be serious. "Do you approve?" She reached out and touched his paw lightly. Milo didn't pull away. In fact, he leaned slightly toward her hand. It felt like a tiny victory. Emma's mom came into the room carrying a bowl of soup and a blanket for Emma. "Here you go, sweetheart. You'll get sick if you don't warm up too." "Thanks, Mom," Emma said, taking the bowl. "He's doing better now. I think he's not scared anymore." Her mom glanced at Milo and nodded. "He looks comfortable. That's a good sign." They sat in silence for a few moments, watching him sleep. Emma sipped her soup and said, almost to herself, "It's strange. I feel like I've known him longer than just one day." Her mother smiled. Sometimes the heart decides quickly. After her mom went back to the kitchen, Emma lay down on the rug beside Milo, resting her head on her arm. She didn't want to leave him alone. She watched his little chest rise and fall. "I'm glad you're here," she said softly. "I don't know why, but I am." Milo opened one eye just a little, then closed it again. Emma stayed like that for a long time, until her soup was cold and the rain outside had finally stopped. The world was quiet again, and in the center of it, a girl and her kitten rested side by side, both a little warmer, a little safer, than they had been before. The next morning, Emma woke early. The house was quiet, except for the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the occasional creak of the wooden floorboards. She sat up quickly, her eyes going straight to the blanket near the couch. Milo was still there, curled in a tiny ball, his chest rising and falling with slow, even breaths. Emma smiled and whispered, "Good morning, Milo." He stretched one paw out, then the other, and let out a small yawn. His eyes blinked open, and for a moment, he just stared at her. Then, without a sound, he stood up and walked over to her, rubbing his head gently against her leg. "Okay," she said, reaching down to pet him. "Let's get you checked out." After breakfast, Emma and her mom carefully placed Milo in a small box lined with a towel. They drove to the neighborhood animal clinic, just a few streets away. Milo stayed quiet during the ride, his eyes wide as he looked out the small holes in the box. Inside the clinic, the smell of antiseptic filled the air. A bell above the door rang as they entered. The waiting room was simple: clean chairs, a counter with magazines, and a few posters about pet care. A dog barked in the back room, but Milo didn't react. He just stayed curled up, watching everything. The receptionist smiled. "Hello. How can we help you today?" Emma stepped forward. "Hi. We found this kitten yesterday. He was alone in the rain. We just want to make sure he's okay." The woman nodded kindly. "Of course. Just a few minutes." Soon, a tall man in a white coat came to the door. "Emma," he said. She stood. "Yes. I'm Dr. Patel. Let's take a look at your new friend." In the exam room, Dr. Patel gently lifted Milo from the box and placed him on the table. "Hey there, little guy," he said softly. "You've had a rough night, huh?" He checked Milo's eyes, ears, and mouth. He listened to his heartbeat, felt along his spine and legs, and finally smiled. "Well," he said, "he's underweight and a bit dehydrated, but no serious injuries. No broken bones. No fleas. He'll be just fine with food, water, and rest." Emma let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Can I keep him?" she asked. Dr. Patel looked at her mother, who gave a small nod. "As long as no one reports a missing kitten, I don't see why not," he said. "He's lucky to have found you." Emma reached over and scratched behind Milo's ears. "Thanks," she said. "We're lucky too." They walked out with a small bag of kitten food, a list of vaccines, and a promise to return for follow-ups. As Emma carried the box back to the car, she looked down at Milo, who was now fast asleep. "You're going to be okay," she whispered. "Really okay." By the time they returned home, the sun had come out. The wet street sparkled in the light, and drops of rain still clung to the leaves outside. Inside the house, everything felt brighter, warmer, different. Emma carried Milo gently to her room. She had cleaned a small space near the window and placed a soft bed there, made from an old sweater and a folded blanket. She also set out a shallow dish of water and a bowl of food. Milo stretched as he stepped out of the box and sniffed around. He moved slowly but with more confidence than the day before. He walked in a small circle, then sat by the window, blinking in the sunlight. Emma sat on the floor beside him. "This is your home now," she said quietly. "At least. I hope it can be." Over the next few days, Milo grew stronger. He followed Emma around the house, sat beside her while she did homework, and curled up on her pillow every night. He had a favorite toy, a crumpled piece of paper, that he chased like it was alive. He no longer flinched at loud noises. He purred when Emma entered the room. He belonged. One afternoon, as Emma sat on the couch reading, Milo jumped into her lap and lay down. She ran her fingers gently through his soft fur and smiled. "I learned so much because of you," she said. She wasn't just talking about how to care for a kitten. She had practiced new English words at the vet, spoken with confidence to adults, and described her feelings more clearly, even to herself. Words like warm, scared, help, safe. They meant something real now. Later that evening, Emma wrote a few of the new words on sticky notes and placed them around the room. Blanket, milk, window, pillow, friend. Each word reminded her of a moment. A feeling. A step forward. She looked at Milo, now curled into a ball at the foot of her bed. "I didn't just rescue you," she whispered. "You rescued me too." And in the quiet, with the last rays of sunlight fading outside and the soft sound of Milo's breathing in the room, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Ready. Ready to keep learning. Ready to keep helping. Ready for whatever came next. Because learning a language, like saving a life, begins with just one small, kind step.